The Amanda Project by Melissa Kantor and Amanda Valentino. Chapter 23. I thought we'd get to talk about Amanda more after lunch, but Nia's mom made it clear that Sunday afternoon was designated homework time. Hal and I were welcome to eat as much as we liked and then clear out. So by the time we said goodbye, we hadn't made any plans for what I was starting to think of as Project Amanda. On Monday, as I was leaving the cafeteria, I saw Hal and Nia ahead of me in the humanities corridor, and I started walking faster so I could catch up with them. I'd passed by them earlier, sitting at the table alone and talking, and I'd wanted more than anything to join them. Lately it seemed like the only time I felt okay, like I wasn't pretending to be someone or something that I wasn't, was when I was with Hal and Nia and we were talking about Amanda. But Lee was sitting next to Kelly, who was already waving me over to our usual table, and there was no way I couldn't pretend I hadn't seen them, so I passed Hal and Nia and joined the group. It was some consolation to see that Lee's face lit up when I sat down, like he was really glad to see me. When he leaned toward me and asked, "Saturday night was awesome, wasn't it?" I tried to be glad I'd made the choice to sit where I had, even if my "totally" was a 100% lie. When lunch ended, my friends were headed in the opposite direction, so it was easy to take off after Hal and Nia. As I made my way toward them, I passed B. Rossiter, and my stomach turned over, as it always did. I walked faster, leaving her far behind. When I tapped Hal on the shoulder, his enthusiastic greeting erased all thoughts of B. "Hey, I was just going to text you." He lowered his voice. "After school, we're going to meet up and check out those addresses of Amanda's. It seems like the best way to try and find her. Don't you want to come?" "I'm sure she has way better things to do, Hal," said Nia, refusing to make eye contact. The way she said it made me wonder if she'd seen me walk by their table earlier, or if she decided to turn on me for some other totally random reason. When I left her house yesterday, I thought things were better between us. Apparently, that was optimistic. "No, actually, I don't," I objected. "Great." Hal was either choosing to ignore the sparks flying between me and Nia, or was truly clueless about them. "Let's start the condos downtown. You know the ones I mean, right? The Riviera." I'd passed the billboard advertising Orion's new luxury condos about 10,000 times. "The Riviera, not just a place to live, a lifestyle," I quoted. Hal laughed, and in spite of herself, Nia smirked too. "Do you want to meet there at 4?" said Hal. I had a history test tomorrow that was going to require at least 3 hours of cramming plus 1,000,000 pages of English reading to catch up on. "Perfect," I said brightly. "I'll see you at 4. The Riviera was nothing like the other buildings in downtown Orion. The town's main street, which is actually called Main Street, is mostly wood and brick buildings, and none are more than 4 or 5 stories tall. There was a huge zoning fight when the town council originally heard the proposal for the Riviera, which was supposed to be a glass and steel tower of, I think, 10 stories. My mom was really involved. She called the building the New Yorkization of Orion. But if you asked me, the idea that one building could turn Orion into New York City was completely hilarious, considering the two have about as much in common as I have with a mega bee. Unfortunately, the developers had to satisfy themselves with a 5-story glass tower that looks even weirder than a 10-story one would have. It's like someone started to build a sexy, cool Manhattan skyscraper and then at the last second changed his mind and just put a roof on a short glass building. Basically, you feel as if you're looking at a teensy shrunken supermodel. Nia was already there when I pulled up on my bike, leaning against a parking meter where she'd locked her bike. My stomach sank. If only Hal were there first. "Hey!" I called, pulling up to her and hopping off my bike. "Oh, hey." She didn't say anything else. I stood in the silence for about 10 seconds, then started babbling. My mom hated this building. Then, realizing what tense I'd used, I rushed to correct myself. Hates. She hates this building. If Nia thought there was something weird about my difficulty differentiating between past and present, she didn't mention it. "So does mine," she said. Were we friends now? Were we getting along? It was so weird how sometimes she was totally cool with me and sometimes she wasn't. I decided not to push my luck by saying anything else, which Hal made easier by arriving a minute later. He was riding a bike that was way too small for him and, that I noticed as he left off, was pink. "Sorry I'm late," he said, breathing hard. "I had a flat and I couldn't find the pump." "Is that your sister's bike?" asked Nia, eyebrow arched. "I feel I'm man enough to ride a girl's bike." Hal stepped back to admire the white basket and tassels hanging off the handlebars. Absolutely, I nodded. If anyone could carry off a girl's bike, it would be you. Thanks, Callie, said Hal. He patted me on the shoulder. I appreciate your vote of confidence. Notice she said if, Nia reminded him. Point taken, said Hal, and he locked his bike to a pole. The three of us turned and stood there, looking up at the Riviera. Finally, Nia broke the silence. Okay, you said she was living with her mom in the model apartment until their apartment was ready for them to move in. Right, said Hal. They ordered all kinds of special fixtures from Europe or something. We started walking toward the building. Sliding glass doors opened silently, revealing a lobby even fancier than I'd imagined. A ginormous chandelier, about 10,000 pieces of tinkling glass, hung from the ceiling, and the floor was a dark pink marble. My mom had wrinkled her nose and said how tacky it was, but I couldn't help thinking that it would have been kind of cool to live here. They had a gym and a rooftop pool. There was a man sitting behind a wooden desk and a small gold plate that said concierge on it. And I was wondering how we were supposed to even go up and get to see Amanda if she did, in fact, live here. Since I'd been in the lead, I got to the guy's desk first, and Hal and Nia came up behind me a second later. The man looked up at us like the only things he liked less than muddy shoes on his marble floors were teenagers. Hi, I offered. Hello, he said. Even though I could tell he wasn't happy about the three of us showing up in the pristine lobby, he gave us a toothy smile. I wonder if that was something they taught in concierge school. We're here to see the model apartment. Nia used her official legalistic tone like she had in Thornhill's office. Are the three of you in the market for an apartment? The man asked condescendingly. Our parents are, said Hal quickly. We're meeting them here. Ah, I see, said the man. To my tremendous relief, he pointed to his left. In that case, take the elevator to your right. It's the 4th floor, apartment D. The elevator was as swanky as the lobby, with wood-paneled walls and its own mini chandelier. When the doors opened at the 4th floor, I was a little disappointed at the hallway, which, with its stucco walls and industrial carpeting, felt more like a hotel corridor than a posh New York address. Apartment D was 2 doors down from the elevator, and the door was slightly ajar. Suddenly, I realized we might be seconds away from seeing where Amanda actually lived, and my heart started to beat really fast. Was the mystery about to be solved? We'd barely pushed the door open when I had my answer. No. The model was like a cross between an office and a still life. The glass walls provided a really sick view. You could see all of Orion and past the town into the mountains of the south of the city. There was a super modern furniture everywhere, a living room with a flat screen TV almost as big as the one at Nia's house, and a dining room table elaborately set for dinner. There were even some magazines casually scattered on the beige sofa as if someone who had lived there had only just finished reading them. But next to the front door was a desk with a fax machine and a pile of brochures with The Riviera, not just a place to live, a lifestyle, printed under a photograph of the building all lit up at night. Every surface was immaculate. There wasn't so much as a take-out coffee cup on the desk. The idea that anyone could have actually lived here was nothing short of laughable. Hello? Called a voice, and a second later a very attractive blonde woman in a tight black skirt and cream-colored sweater came around the corner of the apartment. Hi, said Hal. Well, hello there, said the woman, her voice perky. Looking for an apartment? Not exactly, admitted Hal. We're here kind of under false pretenses. How intriguing, the woman practically purred. A mystery. Yes, exactly, Nia took over. We're looking for our friend, and she suggested she lived here. In the Riviera? I'm sure I can help you find her. The woman gave us a big smile, as if she didn't mind our being too simple-minded to do something like, okay, say, use a building directory to locate our friend. I found myself growing annoyed with her. In this apartment, I broke in. I don't understand. The woman looked from me to Hal and Nia. You could tell she'd gone from finding us amusing to wishing her colleague downstairs ran a tighter ship. She said she lived in apartment 4D? But no one lives here. This is a model apartment. She emphasized the last 2 words and spoke them slowly, as if perhaps our problem stemmed from our lack of the command of the English language. Despite being annoyed by how condescending she was, even I couldn't ignore how absurd we sounded. I turned to go. Come on, guys, I said. This is stupid. Wait a minute. Hal took a step toward the woman. She was our age, really friendly, wore kind of crazy outfits sometimes. To my surprise, the woman's face lit up. You must mean Chloe. I think she said her name was something like that. Blue wig? Oh, and a platinum blonde one? Okay, this was too weird. There couldn't be another girl walking around Orion with different wigs, so then why? But her name is, I started to say, but Nia cut me off. So you did know Chloe, said Nia, emphasizing the name and giving me a look. Her perkiness restored, the woman perched on the edge of the desk, swinging her well-toned leg and smiling at us. Oh, I wouldn't say I knew her, but she and her mom were considering buying an apartment here. You met her mom? Asked Hal eagerly. Yes, of course she started to say, but then she cut herself off and looked into the distance for a second. Wait. Now that you mention it, both times she was here, her mom called while we were talking. She couldn't make it. Chloe took a brochure for her. I think it was the penthouse. She was such a dear. The second time, she came and brought me a little cookie. Isn't that lovely? Lovely, said Nia wryly. And she never said anything about coming back with her mom or why her mom couldn't make it? Sorry, the woman shook her head. I can't remember. Work, maybe? No, I might just be making that up. Why? Is something wrong? No, nothing, said Nia quickly. Oh, I'm sure you misunderstood what she said. The woman stood up and clapped her hands together at once as if to applaud our having solved this mystery. She must have told you she was looking at the model apartment because she and her mom might live here. But she meant here in the building, not here in this actual apartment. She giggled and gestured toward the immaculate surroundings. You can see what I mean, of course. Of course, it is completely clear now, said Nia, her voice dripping sarcasm. Well, thank you. Oh, it was my pleasure to meet you. The woman shook each one of our hands. Maybe if your friend and her mom move in, I'll see you again. Maybe, I said. Nia and I waved goodbye, but Hal was clearly too thrown by what had happened to be polite. When we got to the elevator, he jabbed angrily at the down arrow, and he didn't speak a word as we crossed to the lobby and left the building. When we got to our bikes, he just tossed his leg over his sister's pink frame and shouted, "Comfort in," before shooting off down the street. The ride was flat enough that it wasn't hard, but Hal set a fast pace, so we were all panting by the time we arrived at the parking lot of the Comfort Inn. I'd driven by the place a million times, but I'd never been this close. It was definitely way seedier than I'd pictured. Honestly, if Amanda were living here, I almost didn't want to know. I don't think we can go inside, said Nia, taking in the bruised-looking paint of the building and scraggly weeds. It's too depressing. To my relief, Hal suggested Nia and I just wait outside while he went in to talk to the manager. 5 minutes later, when Hal came out shaking his head, I couldn't decide if he was relieved or disappointed that we'd hit yet another dead end. The guy thought I was joking, he said. I get the feeling this isn't exactly a family inn. Did you describe her to him? Asked Nia. Oh no, never even thought of that. If he'd been frustrated by our experience at the Riviera, he was now totally pissed off. I only said of a girl named Amanda Valentino and refused to tell him anything else. I just thought maybe... Forget it, Nia, said Hal. She's totally full of it, okay? She was just messing with us. We were idiots for thinking anything she ever said or did meant anything. Hal, don't... I've been about to tell him not to take his frustration out on Nia, but before I could finish my sentence, he cut me off. Forget it, guys. Forget I said anything. Forget Amanda, too, because that's what I'm planning to do. A second later, he was pumping his legs and flying down Route 10 faster than I would have thought a little pink bike could go. Wow. Nia watched him disappear into the horizon. Wow, I repeated. He's upset. I'll say. You don't think... I faltered for a minute, thinking of all those drawings of Amanda in Hal's sketchbook. You don't think there was anything going on between them? No, I can't really imagine her as anyone's girlfriend, but I kind of know... Nia's voice trailed off. I turned around to face her. She was rubbing her finger along the handlebar of her bicycle, studying it as if she had never seen anything as fascinating as the grip she was holding. What? I asked when she didn't finish her sentence. I kind of know how he feels. Once she uttered the sentence, Nia seemed able to relax and meet my eyes. I don't want to go back to my life without Amanda. We were talking about way more than a wardrobe makeover here. Nia's statement was so raw that I was afraid to respond. I was positive if I said, I know just how you feel, she'd say something like, how could you possibly know how I feel? I didn't want to blow it. I settled on, yeah. Nia put a foot on the pedal of her bike. You don't know anyone named Chloe, do you? I went through my classes and shook my head. I don't think there's anyone named Chloe in our whole grade. Well, I should get home, she said. It's pretty late. I thought of Nia's house, her parents laughing and flirting, her cute brother, the delicious dinner that waited her. Yeah, I said, I should get home too. I wondered if the heat was even on at my house. Well, bye, said Nia. She stood up on her pedals and headed off. Bye. As I pedaled out after her, I thought about how neither one of us had said anything about looking for Amanda together anymore. But really, what was there to say? When I got home, the house was cold, but there was the smell of heat, so I knew at least the furnace was working today. There was a light coming from under the basement door, but I didn't have it in me to deal with my dad. I just headed upstairs to my room, overwhelmed by all the studying I still had to do, and how totally useless the afternoon had proven to be. Amanda had told us so many lies that if not for Hal and Nia, I might start to wonder if I'd made her up entirely. I might start to worry that, not that she had disappeared, but that she never existed in the first place. At the top of the stairs, I saw that little bit of light was coming from my room. I felt a wave of irritation at myself for having forgotten to turn off my reading lamp. My dad did not need a gigantic electric bill. It was one thing for us to have no heat now that spring was coming. It was another for us to have no light. But when I pushed open the door to my room, I saw the light wasn't coming from my reading lamp. It was coming from a tiny, illuminated aluminum Christmas tree right in the middle of my bed. I gasped because there, under the tree, was a purple envelope with a coyote in the upper